Every game we play has their fair share of bad characters or agents. Now, some are really bad and then some are not that bad. Here, let me list a few games and characters that are pretty bad, and you probably know them. So first we have Doomfist from Overwatch that's rated the worst agent in it. We have Tachanka from Rainbow Six Siege, which has the lowest pick rate in Pro. And Cypher, which has the lowest pick rate overall, even lower than Yoro at this point. Now, for the people who don't know who Cypher is, he's pretty much an agent that plays hide and go seek with you, or runs it down in the beginning of the round and says the game wasn't winnable from the start. Anyways though, Cypher hasn't received a buff or change since version 3.0, and the only thing they did was made his ult only take 6 ult points instead of 7, and that was more than a year ago.
I don't want to play with you anymore.
So now that Cypher's an agent that Valorant doesn't even want to buff or rework, I'll do it for them. Before we get into this video, please consider liking and subscribing. It allows me to make more content like this, and it's pretty much a win-win for you. Also, join the Discord. You can probably be in one of my next videos. The link is in the description. So let's talk about his abilities and why they just aren't good. Let's start with his signature ability, Spy Cam. Cypher's Spy Cam shoots a tracking dart every 6 seconds and can also be recalled every 15 seconds. But if his Spy Cam is destroyed, it takes 45 seconds to regenerate. Now, unlike the camera your uncle has, this one isn't hidden when it's being used. Also, just like your uncle, it tracks them until they finally remove the tracker. So how would I fix this? Well, I'd start with this. I would first start off with giving him 2 cameras, so he's pretty much playing Five Nights at Freddy's in Valorant. I would then lower the fire rate of the tracking dart to around 10 seconds. I would then make it where you can only recall it during the pre-round phase. I would also remove him being able to regen them. I would also change the way his camera works when it's being used. Whenever Cypher gets on his camera, it's completely visible to everyone, including enemies. But when the camera is no longer active, it goes into a state of invisibility. So let's remove the part where it's visible to enemies when active, but replace it with a partial invisibility. So it's still seeable if you kind of are looking for it, but you won't immediately notice it. And we'll also keep the invisible when inactive. I'll also keep the idea of the tracker stays until it's removed, but I would want it to stack so the longer it's on you, the faster it pings you. From the changes I just made, he no longer just kind of walks around and just places cameras everywhere, kind of peeking with them, but now has a defensive advantage when holding down sights or bomb retake. So let's talk about Cypher's main basic ability, his tripwires. His tripwires are pretty straightforward. You walk into them and you get stuck in them. Alright, maybe that's not everything. There's a few more things to it. So if you walk into a Cypher's tripwire, you get highlighted like you're being tagged by a Sova dart for the time you're stuck in it for. Also, when a player gets stuck inside of the tripwires and they don't break the tripwire after 3 seconds, they actually get concussed for an extra 3 seconds and are highlighted the whole entire time. And the last thing for it is, you take 5 damage if the wind-up time completes. Yep, 5 whole entire damage. Alright, now that you know how Cypher's tripwires work, let's fix it. So my idea for fixing Cypher's tripwires is kind of turning his tripwires into a spider web. So the first thing I'd make is the ability to turn on and off his tripwires. You may say this is a bad idea, but think about it. The enemies are taking sight and you let them have control. You turn off your tripwires so they actually don't know where they're at. Then, once they take control, you turn on your tripwires and now they're getting stuck in them. Another thing I would add is when the tripwire fully winds up, it gives them a silence effect, pretty much like KO's knife, for around 10 seconds. And for the last thing I would add is allowing his trips to be placed on the ground, kind of like a landmine. This would be for people taking sight, and the radius is going to be pretty small, so whenever they walk within it, it just tethers onto them and they have to look at the ground and shoot it, or one of their teammates can. And that's pretty much all for the tripwire. Next up we have Cypher's cages, which are pretty much smokes, but deployable. There isn't very much to talk about this one, so I'll get this one over quick. And because everybody knows how Cypher cages work, I'm just going to point out the things that I think should be changed. So the first thing I think that should be changed for Cypher cages is they should work like a Viper orb. You throw them down and you can use them, but once they're used, they stay there and they recharge the timer. So I'd say every 20 seconds you can reactivate it. I also think his cages should be a little bit bigger. Also, when an enemy agent walks through the cage and the cage disappears, a thing should be hovering over it like a hologram, showing who's walked through the cage. So then you can predict and know where your enemies are at. And the last thing we have is his ultimate, also known as neural theft. Neural Theft is a pretty straightforward ultimate. Whenever a dead body appears on the map from the enemy team, you have 20 seconds to get to their body, and then once you ult on it, it shows the enemy team's location from their previous footstep, and it kind of fades away. But this has to be the worst ultimate in the game, so let's fix this. First, I'll start off with changing his ultimate points to get the ult from 6 to 7. Trust me, it's gonna be needed. So I want to change his ultimate just a little bit, but it's still generally the same thing. So whenever he ults on the first kill he gets, he keeps his ult, but he can continuously use it throughout the round on every dead body he finds. I also believe his ultimate should be able to see place down abilities like chamber trips, astral orbs, and enemy Cypher util too. With everything I've changed with Cypher, he is now more defensive and less attacking. So now he's just generally based around controlling the site and holding things down. But also, with his ultimate, he can now counter people that are lurking. And for the attacking side, he can control bomb plants a lot easier. But I want to hear what you think about this. Do you think what I said should be implemented into the game? Or do you have any opinions yourself? Let me know down in the comments below. And until next time, see ya.